What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Roy, accompanied by the Dominican bad man, Sergio, aka the floor price guy. We're coming back to you with another UFC 307 post fight reaction and analysis. Before we get into this card, Serge, how are you, my brother?
My brother, it's always a pleasure. I am fantastic. Great card. Um, Tons of weird decisions, weird things going on, but nonetheless, it was a very entertaining and engaging card, champ. And champ, if the rumors are true, I heard we did okay. We did
I heard we made some money. We made some money on some good
check
picks, right?
What did I say for you? Tell them to bring me my money.
And we'll get into all that. One thing that stuck out to me about this card before we dive into it is the refs. Man, the judges as well. Were they both bogged up in their minds due to the elevation? Were they affected as well? Because we talked about the fighters being affected, but we didn't consider the judges or the refs. Well, we'll get into that, man. So the opening fight on the card, we had Court McGee up against Tim Means. Now McGee came in as the underdog at plus 175, whereas Means was the favorite at minus 210. We had both chosen McGee to win the fight because one, he looked good on his previous fight, and two, he lives in Utah. He trains at elevation. It was a no-brainer for myself. I thought he was going to win via controlling him on the ground. I didn't predict a submission win. I was pretty shocked that it ended pretty quick. What were your thoughts of the fight? He looked good.
He looked amazing, champ. I mean, the reality is it was two veterans going head to head, with very inconsistent um losses, right, and wins, right. Like I think both of them had three out of last five. But I gotta say, man, I did. We were going both for McGee, right? He's also the Colorado favorite, but champ, as soon as that bell hit, my boy went. McGee went to striking, applied pressure, went for the takedown right away. He didn't wait no time. He took him down, secured that submission in the first round, and looked amazing, champ.
Yeah. He won via rear naked choke. And if you guys are looking at the screen here, we have our picks and our success rate. I myself had a 92% success rate, whereas Four Place Guy had a 58% rate. Altogether, we hit 75% again. So we're doing pretty good back to back. If you followed us, if you're fading us, it's okay. We'll welcome you when you come.
Well, let's be nice.
Yeah.
Let's be nice. We don't have to go there. I mean, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it. I mean, good Lord.
We'll get into this next fight. Our next fight on the card was the retirement bout for Carla Esparza, who was coming in at a plus 145 up against Tisha Torres, aka Tisha Pennington, who was a minus 175. Now, Pennington did pull out the win via unanimous decision. What were your thoughts? A lot of people, and myself included, thought it was split. It was 2-1. I would have gave the first round to Esparza, but unanimous decision. The judging in Utah was a little weird. What did you think of the fight? What do you think about Carla? How did she look coming in after 2 years being off?
Yeah, it will, champ. I mean, look, you're talking about the former two-time champion facing, Tisha Pennington, which is, a lot of people don't know Tisha Pennington. They know Tisha Torres, right?
Mhm.
And she's married to the, Raquel Pennington, which is now the former bantamweight champion of the world. Round one starts, champ, and it's like you said. You one of the things you said that Tisha looked very good against Tabitha Ricci,
She
goes
did.
into engage, and I'll be honest with you, champ. I saw Carla Esparza. She didn't want to get hit. She didn't want to get touched. She didn't want to get a single punch, and that's fine. No fighter would want to get hit in the head, but she
Mhm.
looked so uncomfortable in the striking, champ. But got her down in round number one, secured that round. Goes to round number two. One of the things is you see now Tisha Pennington picking it up, mixing it with the strikes,
Mhm.
right? And one of the things that I think got her the victory is the calf kicks. Carla
Yeah.
was not, yeah, Carla was not defending calf kicks, champ.
Yeah, if you look at the third round, she simply won that round off of the calf kicks. I mean, she threw a total of 46 leg kicks and hit 41 of them. I mean, you think at some point in the fight you'd kind of pivot or switch stance or do something, right, to throw off your opponent, but that's all she wrote towards the end, and Tisha pulled out the victory. She did look good though. I think she's on an upward trajectory. We'll see what happens with her, who they give her next, and where she goes from
Yeah,
there.
and like you were saying, this should have been a split decision. I do find
I
that
think so.
I think the second round was for Torres. Esparza landed a takedown, couldn't really take her down. Well, take her down, but couldn't hold her. But the third round is when Tisha was winning the round, and then Carla ended up taking her down, and that's when she got aggressive. But like I said, I don't mind. I just think it would have been a little bit more respectful. You give the split decision to Tisha Pennington. That's really what it is.
Exactly. Next up, we had Ryan Spann, who was the favorite at -210, up against Ovince St. Preux, who was the underdog at +175. Ryan Spann did pull out the submission win via the first round via guillotine choke. He rocked him. His striking looked good. His cardio looked good. The pace looked good. He was in his face, and he pulled out the victory. Are you surprised? Did you expect this to be a long, dragged out fight, or did you kind of predict Spann to go in there and push the pace and get in his face and kind of get in the win column?
I think we had kind of spoken that if, which Ryan Spann was going to show up, the guy that's motivated, or the guy that, is not really, is taking it easy, sitting down, belly up. But let's be honest, champ, he came out explosive, and both OSP and Spann were throwing leg kicks off the bat, but Spann had the power. And then one of the things with OSP, he looked a bit slower. And that's the memo, right? Like, that's OSP memo. It'll be a little bit sluggish, a little bit slow. But man, shout out to Ryan Spann for being aggressive, right? And one of the things we were speaking about was about that if this goes into the second and third round, it does have the potential of being very lackluster, because both gentlemen fatigue very easily after the second and third.
They're big boys.
Just because of their conditioning, and also you're in high elevation. So shout out to Spann. He got it done. I thought it was going to be more knockout, but he just got the submission.
He got the submission. He's known for that as well, right? Getting that submission victory. His striking looked good to me. I think his overhand right, where he rocked him and then went in for the kill, he looked good. So we'll see if he takes it seriously and how he approaches his fights in the future, because he does have that potential. He does have the striking power, and we'll see what happens with Ryan Spann. Next up, we had Cesar Almeida, who was the heavy favorite at -500, up against Ihor Pereira, who was the underdog at +350. Almeida did win the fight via unanimous decision, but there's a lot of controversy surrounding this fight. There were about 3 to 4 eye pokes that went without consequence. He didn't get a point deducted. There was a kick to the groin. So very interesting on what the how the ref approached this fight. Like, every time they got into the clinch, he separated them immediately for whatever reason. I've never seen that happen in a UFC fight where typically it happens when they're on the ground or they're in a clinch for an extended period of time without any movement or any development, right? But immediately, once Porteria would get him against the cage, he would separate them. So what did you think of this fight? Do you think that it was just that he didn't get a point deducted? Do you think that the win was accurate? The judges scored it right? What did you think, Floyd Prescott?
I mean, it felt like a handicap match, champ. It felt like it was the referee Almeida versus Puteria. Like, it really felt that way. And I kind of want to show you my screen.
Yeah, of course.
Before we go into that, please follow us on X. We do live analysis, day of the fights. We do a lot of cool stuff. We have a little bit of fun here. So follow it. And let's kind of go in, right? One of the things upon this fight happening, first round, I mean, look, Almeida looked amazing, champ, but it started getting a little bit bizarre in the second round, right? That's when we start to see the 1 eye poke, the 2 eye pokes, the 3 eye pokes, even a 4th one. Like, it was just weird. And the fact that there was no warning, no, that referee, obviously, I don't know if it's his first time reffing in the UFC. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll have local, talents come in, and, after they do well, they'll be like, hey, well, let's bring you in and try it out. Well, this fight, champ, either could have been a draw, or it could have even gone to Puteria, just because of the deductions. You could debate that. I think you deduct 2 points, and after the third one, you kind of call the fight and give it to the fighter that's not in a foul, because there were so many different fouls, right? So you have the four what do you call it? The 4 point deductions, right? It would have been 2. It was 4 eye pokes. Sorry, 3 eye pokes, and there was a groin shot. The referee really, wasn't listening to the fighter. Then it was the clinching the issue, where I kind of have here, like I said, like there was 2 to 3 in the second for eye pokes, 1 in the third. The clinching was bizarre, right? Because he would make very early separations. And
Yeah.
what I think that happened is that the crowd, like oftentimes imagine you're in a restaurant and you're waiting for your food and you're the cook, you're gonna get a little bit stressed. You're gonna, okay, well, how do we? I think that's what was happening because that crowd didn't want to clench. And
You don't think the ref had a parlay bet maybe?
no, I don't think the part.
Knockout? I'm just kidding. Or you don't think Dana put out a memo to the refs like, hey, let them stand and bang. I don't want to see his wrestling.
You say that, but it's crazy. But
I'm messing around.
heading into that round, UFC stats like we got the strikes. Yeah, Almeida did win the first and second, but if you see on the third, Puteria, he won the striking, right? And I think even at one point, I'm trying to remember if it was the second or the third round or the first round, Almeida was on top. Which shout out to Glover and his coaches, right? Because he is the one of the training partners for, how do you say this, for Alex Pereira. But then the
Yes.
scorecards, champ, like we were saying, if you end up looking here, yeah, one of the judges gives it to Puteria, the other one's unanimous decision. But like I said, champ, easily that second round could have been a 9-9, right?
Yeah, it could have resulted in either yeah, it would have resulted in a split decision, right?
Yeah,
Because
split decision
yeah,
or
29, 30,
or
27.
or a draw as well. Like we said, for example, in that fight, there was a lot of clinching in the third, so only one of the judges gave it to Puteria. But the reality is, if maybe you let him cook, he potentially takes him down. So yeah, the lesson learned here. I mean, we're not going to see that guy in a while. Dana's super pissed. Shout out to Almeida. But yeah, you got to close those hands, and referees need to be more aware because I mean, Puteria at that point, like, what do you do? 4 and the referee does nothing, bro. Maybe he was already checked out. He's like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just gotta make
And,
it out of here.
and one of the things when it comes to the eye pokes is, whether it's intentional or not, one of the things the broadcasting teams brought up is either people that have a kickboxing background are not used to the glove size. It's a transition, right, from a bigger glove size to a smaller glove size. Also, a lot of fighters, they utilize their fingers to manage the distance, right? We've seen it with John Jones. We see it with Pereira even does it. If you watch Pereira fight, he kind of uses his fingers to kind of gauge the distance. So I don't think it was intentional on his end. I think it's just a force of habit, right? He's used to it. He's fought in kickboxing for so long that he kind of is used to that stance and that distance management. So, what do
Yeah.
you think? You think it was intentional on his end?
No, I just think that the way it is, it's just the kickboxing glove and even boxing gloves. Just there is a certain mobility aspect because once you tense up, then
Uh-huh.
you get slower. That's really what it kind of comes down. You could kind of free flow here, but it's not the same when you close your fist. That is something,
That's a good point.
and it is what it is. And I mean, like, look, let's be honest with you. Both of us went for Almeida, but
Yes.
it feels dirty, right? It just feels.
Yeah. It leaves a like a kind of a distasteful taste in your mouth, right? Like, oh,
And you can't run
whatever.
it back because this fight is not about running it back. This fight really is about that referee. I mean, send them back to the locals. He's gonna have to do a couple of seminars with the boys, and yeah, it was just horrible. And shout out to Almeida. It was a handicap match, 2-1. Almeida got it done.
It was a handicap match, 2-1. I like the theory that the ref had a parlay. We wanted the knockout, brother. But here we go. We'll move on.
It's crazy.
Next up, we had Austin Hubbard losing via split decision to Alexander Hernandez. Now, this was another interesting judges scorecard where they gave Hubbard 30-27. One of the judges did. I think Alexander Hernandez looked good. We kind of talked about how he was going to approach this fight, how he was going to come into the fight because our concern with Hernandez was he's often inconsistent, right? He has the potential, he has the tool set, but he's inconsistent. But I think he came in with a solid game plan. He looked good. He snuffed 11 takedowns. I think Hubbard went for, let's see. Yeah, he went for 12 takedowns actually, and he stuffed all 12 of them. He looked great in my opinion. What did you take away from this? How did you see Hernandez? How did you see the judging? What did you feel, my man?
This was first and foremost, champ. This was not a split decision. And like, I was writing, and you could follow us and check us out. We did the analysis here, and I was a little bit afraid for Hernandez because Hubbard at the start came out aggressive in his face, and it kind of shocked Hernandez. But the issue was Hubbard wasn't really doing anything. Like, he was using that level of like that aggression and that pressure and wasn't really capitalizing. So Hernandez, all of a sudden starts getting timid, worried because the Hernandez chin is being, that's
Being
what
tested.
yeah, because, well, and that's why we were like, we don't know if you feel me, like we should bet on Hernandez, but we got the W. But the reality is Hernandez won the first round. Pressure was there. Hubbard would throw, and it was cool, but it just wasn't there. Going to the second and third, like I said, Hubbard applied pressure. There was a couple times where it looked scary, but Hernandez just basically got it done.
Yes.
And basically Hubbard, the aggressiveness, it didn't really pay off because Hernandez just kept in the pocket, slide, counter. He does have very good footwork.
Does.
He just leaves his chin a little bit open at times, and it's just the reality. When in the octagon, when you move that way, and he loves Dominic Cruz, same as me, you have to give up your boxing defense in order to move quicker in and out and do certain things and pivot. This was not a split decision. This was a unanimous decision win for Alex Hernandez. And even right here, you look at right there, there was where was it? There was somebody that gave the whole 3 rounds to Austin Hubbard, Chris Lee. I mean,
I don't know why.
Yeah, and this is why we're kind of pulled, because it's insane. What you could do is give him the last round, because that's when he really rocked them.
Yeah, he inflicted damage, right? His striking was good in that round.
Yeah, nose bleeding and everything. But where do you get off those 2 rounds? But I know where it came from. It came from the aggression. Sometimes when you're aggressive, it's that octagon control, because he was controlling, the octagon, the pace, but he wasn't really doing anything, right? So that's why I believe Chris Lee did it, but you can't justify that. He just, you got to look at the strikes, and basically it's right here. Hernandez landed 23, no takedowns on the first, right? Versus 10, 26, and 22. I think that's why it was a little bit closer than what many expected, that 22, 26. But again, 4 more strikes. So then you go out, who landed the more powerful punches? And
who's did the most damage?
Yeah, both of them were hurt, were all these different things. But it was in the third that you got to give it to Hubbard, because he kind of wobbled him up a little bit, the stanky leg, a little stanky. And yeah, I mean, after I look at the points, I'm not.
I agree. I think the third round you could argue it for Hubbard, but 3 rounds for Hubbard is kind of ridiculous, man. Kind of ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Back and forth. We're going back and forth fights, and that's why we'll talk about the Jose Aldo. And you told me, brother, who do you have winning? And I'm like, Bautista, and I bet for Aldo. So this is the same situation where it's just like, I knew that Albert was winning, that Albert was losing this fight, and hearing the 30-27 is like, okay. I remember there's money on the line here, and then not only money for bettors, but money for fighters, because if fighters win, they get their win money too. So
exactly. Next up on the card here, we have Marina Rodriguez, who was the underdog at a plus 160, up against Eisman Lucindo, who was the favorite at a minus 190. Lucindo did pull out the victory via split decision. I know you had Rodriguez going into this match as the pick, and I had Lucindo. And I think if you reference our analysis, our pre-fight analysis, one of the things I said was Lucindo cannot strike with Rodriguez. Rodriguez is the better striker, and we saw that in the fight, right? She did get pieced up. She had the nosebleed. She was cut up a bit, and her key to victory was going to be going down to the ground and controlling the ground. And she did get some takedowns. I think she got 3 of her 4 takedowns. She controlled her for about 4 minutes. So for a full round of this 3-round fight, she controlled her pretty much. So she did pull out the victory. I think Lucindo looked good. What did you think of the fight?
I think it was a great fight. I think it was, like you said, it was close. But do I agree with the split decision? Let's talk about that, right? Because Lucindo came in and it was obviously takedown city. versus my girl Rodriguez, which is she's a beast striking.
Yeah, her striking's nice.
She's always shown vulnerability when it comes to her takedown defense, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes she gets caught. And I just thought that was the story that basically, Marina stayed up. Lucinda can't take her down. She worked on her defense, but even at some times, Lucinda would throw very crazy attacks. And for
Yeah.
example, here you have the stats. Basically, you're basically giving the second and third round to Rodriguez, and the first round to striking to Lucinda. But the reality is, champ, I gave that first round. It looked a little bit. I don't know for Rodriguez to look better, but then when you look at the strikes, you're like, no, this is not what happened. This is not the tail of the tape. Do I disagree? Uh, I don't. And you can kind of see that there, right? You can see two judges giving Marina Rodriguez the first round,
Mhm.
similar to me. But then you also need to evaluate who was the more busier, puncher. Lucinda was in the second round. I don't know. Sorry, the first round. I don't know if she got caught, she got knocked down or wobbled, but it's just interesting where that came from because Rodriguez did not go for a takedown. If I'm mistaken.
I think in the first round they gave it to Rodriguez because she did wobble her a bit with the I think it was a left hook that she threw.
Okay, so that was
Yeah.
more of a punching power. Okay,
Yeah, it was she inflicted the more damage, and if you were watching the live odds, it immediately shifted after that happened. She like punched her, she wobbled her a bit, and then it was in Marina's
that's
favor. But then that's when she went for the takedown. She started utilizing takedown. She realized that I can't strike with Rodriguez because she could catch me.
well, and for the fans, right? Like if you're betting and you have the live odds, you can kind of
Hmm.
once you see the live odds go violent for either
Hmm.
side or go even, you know that something happened, and
Uh,
they're live over there, so we're not seeing it fully live. There is a tape delay, so
yes.
you can kind of dictate. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, was a split. I mean, sure, Lucindo got it done. I think the biggest issue was the shin. I think the first time when she was taken down, the
Hmm.
referee stands her up, and in my head, I'm like, what is going on here, right? And then it happens again where Lucindo takes her down, and the referee stands her up, and that's when he gave her the warning because he was putting her chin on her eye, champ.
Exactly.
That was weird. That was very weird. At the first, I didn't know what was going on, so I'm like, and prior to that, we saw the Almeida fight, so we knew that something. Oh shit! Is it gonna get weird this whole night? And it was just Lucindo being dirty. Didn't do it again. Got the W. On to the next.
Do you think the chin to the eye was intentional?
100%. It's
100%.
discomfort. It's
Hmm.
discomfort, right? And like the thing is, you want to be able to put your opponent in a very discomfortable area, and I think
Hmm.
that's what it is. Similar to no, that's illegal, but another what you could also do is you can kind of put your hand on your opponent's mouth
Yeah, they
and
do that. Yeah.
nose. You could do that just to make them uncomfortable because you do want to make them very uncomfortable. But yeah, it's a very strange tactic. I gotta say.
Yeah. And so Lucindo did pull out the split decision win, and we'll move on to the next fight. Next up, we have our main event for the prelims. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who was the underdog at plus 185, going up against New Mansa, Joaquin Buckley, who was the favorite at minus 225. Now, we were on opposing ends in our analysis. You had Wonderboy winning, whereas I had New Mansa winning. New Mansa did pull out the victory via KO in the third round. Leading up to the third round, I think the fight was even, in my opinion. I had initially stated in my analysis that it wouldn't be smart for Buckley to engage with Thompson because Thompson rarely, if ever, loses a striking contest. And he did get hit a couple times. He did get tagged a couple times. I would have much more preferred to see uh, grappling from Buckley, in which he tried. He tried to go for the takedowns. I think he attempted 7 takedowns. It was only successful with 4 of them. So that's good. He took him down initially. If you remember at the start of the fight, he just rushed in there, picked him up, took him down, but he was unable to do anything with the takedowns. Every time he took down Thompson got up immediately and kept the fight standing. And towards the end of the match, the third round, Buckley came out, threw a flurry of punches, and knocked him out with that blitz right hand, and that's all she wrote. What did you think of the fight? Are you surprised that Thompson got knocked out? Are you surprised that Buckley had that game plan of striking with him, engaging with him? What did you think, my man?
I mean, look, like I knew Wonderboy was going to do good going into the third round. I mean, look, the first one comes in, and I thought Wonderboy was up too. Debatable. The second round could go either, man. Going into the third, like Bucky looked a little bit tired. The game plan for Bucky was to hold them down. That was the whole purpose. And when that first round hit and Buckley takes him down, brother, that was so much energy expanded just to take him down, just to prove a point. But when someone like Buckley has a lot of muscle fiber, right? And you're in high elevation, brother, your energy,
the air gets thinner and breathing becomes harder.
Yeah, and so you took him down for what? Because you were supposed to dominate him, which I think that was the biggest thing. And no, Wonderboy get backs up. Shout out to Wonderboy. He landed his blitz. He has like a jab cross blitz, and kicks were on point. Everything was on point, and defended the takedown. It was just at the end. I mean, the end was, he did what do you call it? The in and out, the Dempsey. It felt like a Dempsey roll blitz where he was just kind of like in and out.
Yeah.
And he's good with he has that power, and it landed, and reminiscences to Anthony Pettis to the cage. But the downfall of Thompson, let it not be mistaken, was that cage. You can't, with a fight, like he was throwing a lot of looping hooks, and they were powerful, they were strong. A lot of them were missing, but you become a target when you get at the end of the cage. So I think that's what hit him. Shout out to Buckley. Called out Usman. I don't think he's ready for Usman yet. I think he needs one more fight before he gets to Usman. What do you think, champ?
I think, since he's come down to welterweight, he's looked phenomenal. I think he's on a 5-fight win streak now, if I'm not mistaken. I think at middleweight, he for his stature, he was fighting those big boys, right? And he was having a bit of trouble. I think beating somebody like Stephen Thompson, give him Usman, see how he does, right? Usman has been out of competition for how long? Has it been a year, almost over a year? I don't know. When was the last time he fought?
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit, right? So I think you give him Usman, see how he does, right? Oh, who would you give him just in case?
I don't think Usman wants to fight someone like that. It's just like the Usman criteria. Well, and I'll be honest with you, Usman did want to fight Wonderboy, and that fight did not end up materializing because Dana's like, no, you're not going to fight Wonderboy. You got to fight somebody, fight top 5. You're Usman. I think now it would make sense, right? That's because then Buckley's one away from the belt if you beat Usman.
Yeah, and then Usman's on a 3-fight losing loss. He last lost to Khamzat in 2023, so it has been a year. And one of the funny things that, Buckley's funny, right? He said, "Hey, let's put up my 5-fight win streak against your 3-fight losses. Let's run it." So we'll see. We'll see if that gets Usman to accept the challenge. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Let me see one thing right here. Give me a second. I'm just looking at the rankings. I want to see where they land in the welterweight division. Pulling it up right now on my laptop. Give me a second.
I can pull it up if you want.
Yeah, pull it up so we can show the people as well.
It's right here.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason he called out Usman is because he's ranked number 2 as well. Okay. So he beat Wonderboy, who was number 9. That bumps him up from 11 to number 9. And then if you look at that list of people there, yeah, I mean, I don't think he wants to go up against any of those other boys.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look, I don't think he wants to go against Gilbert Burns because going to he's probably going to pass Gilbert Burns after this ranking, after this week, and he become number 8. And you want to find Sean Brady? I mean, that'd be an interesting fight. Both of them have the same build. You want to tangle with Ian Gary, which is I wouldn't say an upgraded version of Wonderboy, but a very youthful version of Wonderboy. Like he has very good footwork, good kicks. I don't know if he wants that fight.
Yeah.
Maybe
I was trying to make sense of why he was calling out Usman. I don't know if they had any history of bad blood, but seeing him at number 2, it makes sense. Right? It makes sense why he would call him out. I don't think he wants Edwards. I don't think he wants that.
Well, yeah, he's gonna be. I don't know what Edwards gonna do. Maybe they're gonna give Edwards to Ian Gary.
You think
I
so?
don't. I mean, like, there's been nothing with Ian Gary, so he's either injured or. And what's the point of fighting Colby when you're going to go to 5-7? It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
I think you don't think that they're gonna run Edwards versus Usman.
Edwards. No, we already had Edwards versus Usman.
Mhm.
4? No. No.
No, you don't think they run a 4th one? No.
No, I don't think they'll do the 4th one. I think I think the main issue with Usman, because he's like the Israel Adesanya of that division. It's just
Exactly.
like, you can't give him Magdalena. Well, you can, but then it's just like, it's a big star, so it would be a co-main event slot. It's good for Magdalena. You can't give him Colby because they already, ran it 2 times. He won 2 times. Sean Brady could. I mean, maybe that's a fight I would want if I were Usman. Fight Usman,
Yeah.
but when it comes to Buckley, man, fight Colby Covington. Like, I think that's a good fight for him, Colby.
Colby or Burns. I think they're gonna give him another, feather in his
Yeah.
cap. One of those two.
But I wouldn't do Burns champ. It's just below the rank. Sorry, not below the rankings, but it's just I don't think he wants to just fight one spot over.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Burns.
because I think because based off of like Brady's last performance, he called out Gary, right? I think that's who he wanted to fight next, and then Burns. Who is Burns? Brady, Burns, Della.
And technically, Burns is on a 3-fight
2
losing
fight. Oh, 3 fight, yeah.
3,
3
yes, and it's not good.
Burns, Brady.
Last opponent was Masvidal back in last year, which feels like forever, but.
And that's the thing we don't want to see with these older fighters that we grew to love, right? Is to have them in the position where they're just giving them to younger, up and comers. I don't want to see him fulfill that role.
Maybe he even gets Edwards in. I don't think at the end of the year. I don't think he fights at the end of the year. He fights in Q1 of next year.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has to fight somebody with a winning streak. Why would you fight Burns with 3? What is that going to do? Nothing.
Yeah, but he also, but that logic cancels out why he wants to fight Usman, because Usman's on a losing streak as well.
Yeah, but he's number 2, and I think that's a bigger risk because he's number 2 versus Gilbert Burns and him are going to be maybe 8 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it becomes a little bit. I wouldn't do it. I'll be honest with you. If I could fight somebody else, go on top, and also the number 2 guy, because then you become undeniable. Once you get to number 2, are you going to fight Edwards? Nah, you're going to fight for the belt.
Yeah, he wants to fast track to the belt. I get it. Makes sense. All right, we'll move on. Took a little detour there. All right, we've arrived to our main card. Kicking off the main card, we have Ketlen Vieira, who is the underdog at plus 650, up against the heavy favorite at a minus 1150, Kayla Harrison. Kayla did pull out the unanimous decision win. I think rightfully so. Her striking improved a little bit. She did get tagged. She did get hit. She had a big welt on her forehead. Ketlen, she was quoted as saying towards the end of the fight that Ketlen was the first person to make her bleed. So not much else to say about that fight. What did you think about Harrison's performance, her striking, her improvements? Where do you want to see her improved? And do you think, her shot against, the current champ now, Pena, how's she looking?
Yeah, and it was a good fight. It was a very good fight against Vieira. She is in the UFC. She's gonna face tougher opposition, especially even like for her first fight, she fought Holly Holm, and Holly Holm was, she's on the way out. Holly is not what she was when she fought Ronda or prior to Ronda, but I gotta say I like Kayla. The odds inflated our expectation of what we expected from her, right? I think that was the biggest issue. The calf kicks were there. She was switching it up. She looked comfortable on the feet, but then there was a lot of tentativeness, right? There wasn't that really killer instinct. At certain points when she got her down, she the sheer aggression came out, but it takes 2 to tango. Like, Vieira wasn't really also in her face throwing, jab cross kick combinations. It was just one kick at a time, right? It takes two to tango. I think Kayla did well. And where do you go from here, champ? I mean, listen, we got the rankings here, right? Juliana's now the champion, and I think that's the fight. Juliana wanted to fight Amanda. And we'll get into that card because that's a very interesting card from a perspective of who actually won. But Kayla's next, Harrison's next. Juliana is chasing Amanda. Amanda's retired, and the reason why, champ, let's be very honest with the reason why. It's because then that card would have its own main event at the pay-per-view. They wouldn't be a co-main event, so she would be getting paid. You bring back the woman's GOAT, you get paid. That's simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why she doesn't really want to fight Harrison. Harrison still is not a draw. That's why they don't put her. They're putting her in main cards, but they're not really putting her in co-main events because they're unsure.
So what do you think they do? You think they run the Pena versus Nunez?
Harrison's
they,
next.
They have to do Harrison next, right?
Harrison's next. Yeah. You all like, and I also don't see a rematch. Like, and that's the issue. That fight was so close. You don't see a rematch with Pennington because the reality is, does the UFC want Pennington as champion from a money perspective, or from somebody that's going to attract more, more eyeballs? Or she's a very conservative champion. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just Juliana's a little bit more loud, a little bit. You feel me? Even at that press conference. That's why it was very impressive when Pennington started, lashing out a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I like this. I could get into this, champ.
Yeah, and you also have Norma right there at number 5. She looked good in her last fight at 306. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of moving pieces.
You know what, champ? Have Norma Dumont fight Pennington, and have.
I think so. That's what I was thinking as well. I think so. Norma versus Pennington makes sense to me.
You can't do really nothing with Macy. Macy just has to wait and see. Well, give her Vieira. Give her Vieira next. But I also think she's fought Vieira. You see, that's why it's so. And by the way, I just noticed that they removed the featherweight women's ranking. It's
really,
Amanda Nunez is no longer there, so they had that division open for her. So it just makes no sense.
Or even Vieira and Dumont. I don't think they fought.
Maybe that's the fight, but it keeps her closer to So we're right. Macy hasn't fought. Macy has not fought. There's Vieira in the books. There's Dumont. They're going to tangle. It's going to get interesting.
It's going to get interesting. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll move on here.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we have Roman Dolidze, who was the underdog at a plus 125, winning via TKO up against Kevin Holland, who was the favorite at a minus 150. Now, if you watched our pre-fight analysis, I stated I'm interested to see what version of Roman we get this fight. Do we get the striker that went up against Anthony Smith, the guy who looked like a kickboxer, the guy who didn't shoot for any takedowns in that fight, the guy that made us all scratch our heads? Or do we get the grappler that we get the individual that got him to the dance, right? And in that fight, prior to Kevin Holland injuring his rib, he did shoot for the takedown. He did take him down. So who knows how that fight would have played out? Would have Roman utilized the grappling to control Holland, to take away some of his threats, the striking and whatnot? Who knows? Unfortunately, Holland did injure his rib. They threw the towel, and that's all she wrote. What did you think of this, or what did you feel about this?
And I had Holland winning based on movement control, but it just goes back into the reason he moved down to welterweight. Is just like those middleweight guys are too big for him. He was having good success at the beginning, champ. It didn't pan out. Roman just put him down and then controlled him.
Yes,
right? Controlled him. Holland didn't look like he really. He was really battling. He was just, and he got injured because I think he tried to go for an armbar, ended up landing on his side. Roman pressed, the rib happened, and Roman started unleashing punches on him, right? If you look at the rankings, you're going to find that Kevin Holland is a top 15 welterweight, right? It's ranked top 15. And going into this fight, like, he's taking this fight because he wants to get paid. It's what's available. And based on stats, Kevin is a draw. Like Kevin draws a lot of eyes, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if it'll translate to pay-per-view, but it will translate it to well, that was a pay-per-view fight. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. What I'm trying to say is like a co-main event slot, a main event slot. But he gets a lot of eyes. I just think Champ, he just stick to welterweight. Don't mess with the middleweight boys. Um, unless you're gonna bulk up a little bit more. That's because those guys, I mean, we saw it. It was just once he was in the ground, it was just difficult.
Yeah, and one of the things, and the reason why I asked you how did you feel about that is because one of the things that the broadcasting team brought up that stuck out to me was, you know, the coaching of the corner of Kevin Holland. They were putting the decision on Holland, right? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? Do you want to quit? Right? And one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want your fighter to quit. You don't want your fighter to say, "Hey, I'm done." You kind of want to make that decision for them, right? So I think that's one of the things that stood out to me. That's why I wanted to ask you, like, do you think it should be the fighter's choice? Because a lot of fighters sometimes they have that pride, they have that ego, right? Like, I'm gonna go out there, I know I'm injured, but I'm gonna put on a show, and I run the risk of further injuring myself. Or do you think it should be based on the coaching staff? Like, listen, we're done. We'll get them another day. Don't hurt yourself. Think of
The
the
worst,
future.
yeah, the worst thing that could happen is that when they put the camera on him, that they were
Mhm.
just, and the coach said, "Kevin, do you want to go on?" And he
He
wasn't
didn't
saying,
want to say it, right? He
he
was
didn't
hurt,
want to
but
say
he didn't
is
want to say it.
and I think Connor. That's why Connor came out, did his notorious tweet and delete because it was nasty. It was like
He's
Kevin
doing that to
Holland.
him. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And the reality, who got it done? The referee. And a lot of people think, well, at least the coach asked him, and it's just like, no, well, he did, but it wasn't confident. It was like
Mhm.
the coach was afraid of him saying, and then when it gets stopped, Kevin Holland gets upset, and it's just like,
Exactly.
so just go ahead and fight, and then and it hurt. That's fine. It's second round.
Mhm.
Yeah, the referee did them a favor and stopped it for them. How about
Yeah,
that?
and you run the risk if you go out there of further injuring yourself, right? Because Roman's gonna be, keen to seeing that, okay, his rib is hurt. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna attack his rib. I'm gonna further damage the area that's already injured. So I think it was a good decision to stop the fight. I just, I think the coaching staff should make a more a firm decision, right?
It's just that they left it up to Kevin, and Kevin didn't really want to go, right? And
Exactly.
like I said, like it was just very bizarre because it was hurting. So it's like, what are you going to send that guy hurt? But then you
Yeah,
don't also want to take a decision on your fighter, and the referee did it for them. And then Kevin was upset, and I was just like, but what are we doing here? You
exactly.
didn't say yes, you didn't tough it up. So that's the thing about it. That happened with Johnny Walker. Remember when he got wobbled, and and that other guy that fought Brian Battle, that the eye poke, he couldn't continue, but then when the referee stops it, no, I could have continued. What,
Yeah, he
guys?
wanted to fight, right? He wanted to fight. So,
Don't play. Don't play, because this is what's
mm,
going to happen.
exactly. Next up, we had Josie Aldo losing via split decision against Mario Bautista. Aldo was the underdog coming into this fight. This is perhaps a controversial decision for many. A lot of people are upset that Aldo won. A lot of people are that Aldo lost. Correction. A lot of people are upset in the way Bautista won. Right? He clinched him up against the fence. He held them there. But that is a game plan. It's not a pretty one, but it's a solid one, right? That gets the job done. And there's a big difference between controlling somebody and doing something with the control, right? Like, Aldo was preventing the takedown, but what was he doing when he was up against the fence, right? He literally just stayed there. He didn't make any efforts to get out of the clinch, to do anything. He did do a good job of preventing himself from getting taken down, but he literally just stayed on the fence, right? And I think that's what kind of swayed the judges in Bautista's favor, that he was able to control him in the clinch up against the fence. And I think his game plan was what we expected, right? He pushed the pace forward. He had some good striking exchanges with Aldo, and he respected Aldo enough to know that, okay, I'm not gonna win a striking exchange with this guy, because Aldo was initially kick. He was throwing those infamous leg kicks that we love, and Batista recognized that and went for the clinch and tried to hold him. Towards the end of the fight, you could tell that the cardio was kind of gassing, and he was going for that takedown. So what did you think?
I think it was such a weird. wasn't a weird fight, champ. It was just a controlling fight. I think you give the first one to Bautista, you give
Yeah.
the second one, maybe you give it to Aldo. Sorry, you give it to Bautista, but then it gets weird because of the split decision. I don't think it was a split decision. I think Bautista came up, and I was kind of rioting, and Bautista came up aggressive off the first, and you got to give the first one to Bautista. He went in there, got it done, mixed it up so well that Aldo really wasn't executing. Aldo started to pick up his pattern into the 3 to 4 minute mark.
Yeah.
That's why he got just aggressive. I also did not see the famous body shots, right? Like where were those body shots? It was the movement of Bautista that prevented that. Then what happened to the kicks?
It went away. He threw them the first 2 minutes, and then he didn't throw them throughout the fight.
And I think that's the issue, because then he became a boxer, and Bautista was switching it up, was doing a lot of different things. But the reality champ, and this is why, let me go to the scorecards, because this is where it gets interesting, right? That first round, everybody gave it to, what do you call it, to Bautista. Second round, everybody gives it to Aldo. And then the third round, you got two judges giving it to Bautista. The other one gave it to Aldo, but the reality is control. Like, Bautista controlled the clinch. And the issue with this champ, if you're pressing against somebody and you're not letting him go, what is that, champ? Tell me.
Control,
because that's control, right? That's control. But then Bautista would land shoulder strikes. They were very good shoulder strikes. Pop them in.
And there's a difference. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a difference between simply just controlling somebody. Like in the Pena fight, she controlled her on the ground, but she didn't really do much, right? Whereas Bautista controlled them, and as you just mentioned, he was throwing shoulder shots. He was throwing, knee strikes to the thigh. And an interesting stat here is that he controlled them for 7 minutes. 7 minutes of the 15 minutes he controlled them. So I think the third round is what won him the fight based off of the control alone. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, I'm listening. It's good. I was just kind of highlighting because we saw it a lot in the third round. That's where the Klitchathon is. I'm sorry, but like Bautista got it done. And like, look, and I think this is the biggest issue. You look at the 17 punches thrown by Aldo in the second. Then you look at the 10 of Bautista. You're looking at those numbers, but it's just the control did go to Bautista. And like, look, champ, I had Aldo winning, but going into that round, I'm like, it doesn't look good. Aldo also needs to be more aggressive in that clinch.
Yes.
That's really what it kind of came down to, into my eyes. So, yeah, I mean, look, this is a win for Aldo, really. It just shows he's still there. Bautista now, he's still there. He's still running. Bautista now gets to fight. I think there's 3 fights for Bautista. It's either going to be Cheeto, it's going to be Zong, or it's going to be Corey Sanhagen 2.
Can you pull up the rankings, please?
Of course, brother.
Yeah. So Aldo was at 10, but okay, so they switch. And you say Song.
You give Vera, Dong, or Corey.
Or who?
Or Corey
Sanhagen? Okay.
Because listen, Bautista looked good. His striking looked good, on point, aggressiveness. Jose Aldo becomes that gatekeeper right now. He gatekeeps a new talent, and Mario Bautista is the new talent that has emerged in that bantamweight division. That's really what it kind of comes down.
I like the idea of the Cheeto Vera versus Bautista fight. I think that'll be a good fight.
I mean, look, he's lost 2 in a row, Vera. Why don't you beat a cat with a winning streak and get back to your ways? No.
Yeah, or Cejudo as well. I don't know who he's, because they've announced Figueiredo and Yan, right? I think that's happening is that happening in November or in December?
I don't know, champ. Let me see. Actually, let me see.
Yeah, because I'm not.
It's in China too.
I'm
right?
not mistaken, right? They announced that they're fighting, right?
I also think it's in China.
It's going to be in China. What the?
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing a banger card in China actually. So I think it is in UFC China. Yes, sir. Let me
Let's
see.
see. Let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah, I'm right. November 23rd.
Oh, so it's in November, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not on the John Jones card, right? It's a separate. Okay, it's its own card.
No, it's a fight card. It's a fight night card.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's gonna be good. Okay.
They're sending good talent over there. It's 'cause typically when they send card like when it's a Chinese card or an Asian
Mhm.
card, like the talent isn't really stacked, but they're
Yeah.
actually sending a good card, like a lot of Chinese talent. But then
Okay.
Peter Yan versus Figgy, Tabitha Ritchie versus Jan, Ozdemir, which I think that's a good fight against
Mhm.
Olberg. So that's a good card.
Go back to the rankings one more time. Okay, so that fight's happening.
I also think it's a big miss if they cannot get Zedong. Zedong is Chinese, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure.
Let me check.
You might.
Yeah, it's just what do you call it? He lost to Peter Yan. Yeah, what they should do is they should send he's a Dong UFC. He is Chinese. I'm right, champ.
Nice.
I don't think Bautista is ready to turn around because that'd be a great far. That'd
Mhm.
be a great fight if you send Yadong versus Bautista um, to China and fight. That's actually a great fight over there.
It's
But
too soon though. The turnaround is too
that's
soon.
the issue. That if the card
Yeah.
was in January, February, I think he would have taken it. But he's not going to take that fight.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you though. I like the idea of Vera Bautista, maybe Vera Cejudo. I mean, not Vera, Bautista Cejudo.
I,
Sanhagen would be a banger one too.
I don't think Cejudo's being picky with who he fights. The
Yeah,
only
he's a
reason why he's staying in the bantamweight division is because of the potential money fight with Sean if he comes
Mhm.
back. Because he was supposed to go down a flyweight, but he didn't because he's just waiting for Sean now. So
Yeah.
money talks, baby.
We'll see. Let's get into our co-main event. Diving into our co-main event, we were again on opposing ends. We had Raquel Pennington losing her title and new via split decision against Juliana Pena, who was the underdog, who you rightfully picked. Now, a lot of people in the Twitterverse and and the MMA community are upset that the judging, they felt Raquel won this fight. That it all goes down to the first round, right? I think Raquel has a style when it comes to these fights where she starts slow and she kind of picks up the pace, and we saw that, right? She rightfully so won the fourth and the fifth round, but it all comes down to that first round, right? And I think that's where the judges based their decision, and that's why it gave Juliana the slight edge based on the statistics of that first round, right? So I I would have wanted Raquel to win, not because I picked her, but I just felt like she inflicted the most damage. She knocked her down. Her striking was crisp. Even though Juliana took her down, she didn't really do much with the takedowns. She kind of just laid on her, right? That's my opinion. What did you think of the fight? What did you think of the decision? What did you think of both fighters? Juliana as a champ, her return after 2 years, I believe. What did you think, my man?
I mean, let's be honest. It was a nasty fight, champ.
Hmm.
Uh, it I did have Juliana winning um the other picks. I just didn't like it when I saw her fighting
Hmm.
because she didn't look she looked very ordinary, and when you're a champion you have to go a little bit more beyond than that, right?
Hmm.
It's like Kayla, listen, people are criticizing Kayla, but Kayla's movement looked good. Her takedown, everything was on point. It was a difficult fight, yes, but Juliana went in just to do the necessary to win that fight, similar to Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko went
Hmm.
in there and was like, "I'm not going to be nice. I'm just going to go and win. I'm not going to be flashy."
Yeah.
Um, Put her lead leg and started jabbing, and it played success. If you look at the just scorecard, Juliana did win the first round. Two of them. One of them had Pennington winning. I did have Juliana winning as well.
Okay.
The 2 rounds, everybody gave the second and third to Juliana. Why, champ? Because of the takedown. The first,
Exactly.
right? But then what happened was that as Pennington started getting into it, she starts slow. I saw her at Toronto facing Silva, and it was the same thing. The first and second round, she lost it. But what happened in the third? Her opponent got out. Pennington raised. She put that stove in high, and she went in there, won the fourth round, very decisive, and won the fifth.
Yeah. Can you put up the statistics? The other tab. Yes, this one. Okay. So for the first round, can you kind of break down the why they gave it to Pena?
Yeah, so we were kind of speaking about this. So Pena did have the striking advantage in this one, and she was just precise with her jab, with her cross. She was just precise, champion. Because there was no takedown in the first. But then if you look at the strikes landed per round, Juliana did get it done. Shout out to her. She got it done, right? So the first one goes to Pena. But then you have the second one. And the second one at 6-6, there's not that much striking. But what was the difference? It was the takedown, champ. She took her down.
Yeah,
right?
the takedowns.
Yeah, she took it down. And if I go here, let me just, kind of similar to the fight. She lands knees to the body as well, got back. Pena secures a body triangle hanging like a backpack. So, yes. So now I remember this is where she secured the back position, which is a very dominant position, right? It's kind of that rear naked choke.
Where she picked her up, right?
Yeah, forcing Pennington to use her. That's a dominant position, champ. So that round off the bat goes to Juliana. And I'm sorry, the 6 punches, 3 of them were power shots. But who not dominated, but Juliana controlled that round as soon as it went down. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I think the second and third, it's rightfully given to Pena, right, to Juliana. The first round, though, like if you go back to our analysis on Twitter, on X, Raquel was the aggressor. So she might not have thrown with more volume, but each shot she landed was with more power, right? And that's one of the difficult things, I guess, that when it comes down to judges, do you throw the person that's throwing with more consistency, that's landing more, but not really inflicting damage? Or do you give it to the person who's, throwing significantly less, but is inflicting damage? So, yeah, I think that's where people are kind of at a crossroads, like who won that round. But Pena, she got it done. She's the champ.
Yeah, my big issue, and it's round 4, and this is where listen, I won. This is the only fight that I bet money on, champ. For some reason, but I'll tell you this: going into the 4th round, everybody had Raquel Pennington winning. But I would say, what are we not counting that knockdown when Pennington grabbed her, threw a punch, she went down to the floor, Pennington followed up. And then there was even a little wobble. That is the definition of a 10-8 round. I'm sorry. A 10-8 round when you knock down your opponent. In boxing, champ, when you knock down your opponent, that's 10-8. You knock them out again, that's a 10-7, right? You knock them out again, fight is over. So what was the criteria here for a knockdown? People, oh no, but champ, she was hurt. She was on the ground. She hit her, it wasn't a slip. Went to the ground. I just don't understand that to me there, it should have changed the fight perspective. Somebody would have given her a 10-8. Somebody should. I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah, and then going into that 5th round, I had it actually scored 2-2. I thought that they were even going into the 5th round, and it was up for grabs. And with Raquel being that aggressive, I thought she had pulled it out, but the judges scored it the way they did, and that's all she wrote. Juliana's the new champ, and she will have to survive Harrison.
And if you notice here, another Mike Bell scorecard that ends in controversy. That name has ring a couple different bells tonight.
No pun intended.
No.
There we go. All right. If you've made it this far, please hit us with a like and subscribe. Follow us on X. Tell us, do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Show some love. Don't be stingy. Going into the main event, we have Alex Pereira, who was the heavy favorite, up against Khalil Rountree Jr. Now, Pereira got it done in the 4th round. He won via KO punches. What did you think of this fight before I kind of give my opinion of it? Like, were you surprised? Did it go as expected, or did you kind of predict this outcome late in the fight?
I think one of the main key features we were speaking about is that Khalil Rountree is a very dangerous fighter in that first and second round. Primarily first. I only gave Khalil one round, like when it came to, and he was blitzing going forward to the point where he did touch Alex. And if you want to kind of throw it back to me,
Yes.
you're going to find out that there were all 3 judges gave Khalil the first and second round. And
Yes.
that champ, it's super exciting because nobody has managed to put Alex in that situation. You look at Israel Adesanya, you look at their second fight. Yeah, Izzy hit him, got back, but on the second fight, Alex was dominating that fight. Until that second round, that overhand dropping hand champ. But it was such a great fight. And the thing to look at is the champion used his experience. What did he do? He went after the legs. He went after those calf kicks, right? He minimized his movement, became immobile. And we started to see it started to become very apparent in the second, but Khalil still had a little bit of gas. But in the third, that tie shifted, and it shifted quickly, champ. Went for the body on top, massacred. All of a sudden, Rountree is huffing and puffing, and people were like, John Blachowicz came up and said, I expected this to happen. Brother, no, you didn't. Because let me tell you something. In that second round, Pereira was close to getting finished. But his ability to recover... Sorry, go ahead.
No, he got hit, I said.
Yeah, and his ability to recover is second to none. I don't know what that guy has for recovery. Like, it's just amazing. And, and he got it done. Shout out to him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, based on the fact that Khalil Rountree is so dangerous with his hands and his striking, he's so fast. I had said in my pre-fight analysis, jokingly, I had said, but I also kind of wanted it to happen. I wanted Pereira to take him down. I really thought he was going to go for a takedown and kind of tire him out, just based on the elevation and the muscle mass that Khalil had. I thought he was going to go that route and then finish him off. I think Khalil exceeded everybody's expectations. All the bet makers, all the YouTube channels, everybody thought that this was going to go under 2.5 rounds, right? They thought that Pereira was going to knock him out within 2 rounds. And sure enough, Khalil won the first 2 rounds. He looked good. He came out. He looked fast. He looked crisp with his striking. And I think in the second round, as you mentioned, when he hit Pereira, he hit him with 2 shots. He hit him with the punch to the head and then the leg kick, right? The leg kick that Pereira, if it would have connected, it would have done some serious damage. He made a split second decision where he kind of blocked it. He moved it at the last second, but if that would have connected cleanly, we would have had a different outcome, I think. But, I think after the second round, it woke Pereira up. Khalil got Pereira's respect. And, that's where Pereira showed that, the champion mentality. Okay, time to let my foot off the brake and push the pedal to the metal. And he looked good, man. He hit him with the strikes. His defending looked good. Khalil, whether he was hurt or gassed out, you could tell that he slowed down significantly as the fight progressed. And Pereira got it done. He's in his bag. He mentioned that he doesn't want to move up to heavyweight. He doesn't want to move down to middleweight. He said that Sean, his training partner, is going up against Duplessis. He's going to let him handle that. He's going to stay here, and we'll see what happens at UFC 308 with Anklev, if he wins or not, right? And then we'll see what happens next with Pereira. But yeah, Pereira's in his bag. Go ahead, man.
Oh no, I was just sorry for interrupting. I was just going to say, there is a difference between Izzy and Alex. There's a very noticeable difference, and the difference is in championship fights, Pereira takes risks. That spinning kick he threw, he didn't have to throw that. That could have cost him. He threw it. And
are you surprised? Are you surprised the way he came out?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? A la Verdum.
Yeah, a la Verdum.
So Verdum came in kicking because
It almost got him. Like he could have taken him down right there, man. He had his leg and then he let go.
I also think that that's a strong MFer, bro. I gotta say, but
Yeah.
it surprised me. It would have been cool, right? Because maybe that connects and it finishes the fight, and it's just like, oh, you were right all along. The biggest prop bet was under 3 fights. I think a lot of people, even I almost put a bet finishing under 3, but I just didn't. Like I just liked I just knew that the first one was going to be dangerous. And then if he held on to the gas tank, it was going to be good. Now,
Yes.
champ, like I said before, I love the risk he took.
Mhm.
Shout out to him. John could take a back seat. He's going to have to fight somebody. John hasn't fought. And listen, let's be honest. John Bohoko's last fight was in 2023 against Pereira. After that, Pereira has gone and fought for the belt and has had 4 finishes. Champ, what are we doing? You think they're gonna give a chance for John?
Mhm.
I don't think so. Go beat somebody up. Like you got to go beat somebody up. But now let's look at the rankings, right? You said it the best. Sean Strickland and him are not going to duke it out, similar to
No.
Izzy. I don't think it makes sense to do Izzy and him unless Izzy really wants a title shot.
Mhm.
They'll give it to Izzy. Izzy doesn't want it against Pereira. He doesn't want to
Yeah.
fight that guy for a what? For a 5th time, 6th time?
The stories ended, he mentioned. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, or I forget which podcast. Izzy said that him and Pereira, their story's done. You know, he got the one win, and Izzy also alluded to the fact that I wish that Pereira stays undefeated for the remainder of his MMA career, so I could say that I beat his ass one time. So ironically, Izzy now became the guy saying that I beat him that one time. I beat him that one time. But continue, man. Sorry.
No, that was beautiful. And like you said, like I think that should be a movie. And the movie
should.
it shouldn't be a Pereira movie. I think it should be an Izzy and Pereira, like because it's the same kind of trajectory. You know, both
Mhm.
kickboxing, stardom, both transferred in, fight, rivalry. So I think that'd be amazing. But let's look at the rankings, champ. If Sean Strickland loses to DDP, I think now you have a good position for Pereira to go down and beat the brakes out of DDP because that's what he wants to do, right? It's
Mhm.
just DDP is a very loud mouth. But champ, DDP's big. He's a big boy.
He's big.
One of the things he said about Jiri is that he told Jiri, like, I think you should go down to middleweight. And Jiri's like, hell no. It's like, brother, I weigh the same as you. So it's just interesting, right? It's just like
Yeah.
that's why you wonder why when every time DDP hits you, because he is cutting a lot of weight.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
I think Khalil and Pereira should take some time off. We kind of mentioned it on the X, right? To take at least 6 months, come back in the summer, May, June. I think a lot of what's going to happen next is dependent on what happens at UFC 308. We have, a light heavyweight bout. We have Ankalaev versus Rakic, number 2 versus number 5. Based on how that fight goes, we'll see who's up against Pereira next. Because I don't see them doing Hale versus Pereira. I don't think that's a draw, especially with Hale. I don't know if Hale's suffering from CTE or what's going on with my guy, but he has this weird thing where he just hates. He just doesn't like Pereira, man. He just hates on everything he does. You saw the clip of him yawning after the fight.
Yeah, which a lot of people were saying, oh, he's soup. You know what? I'm not gonna get into that, but I'll say this: doesn't make sense for Hill to fight. Hill needs, you know what? If Hill is, because I know Hill was injured, that's why the original fight was Khalil versus Hill. That was the original fight, and Khalil has to kind of step down. So that's fine. Khalil got tested positive for steroids. Turns out it was something else. Khalil now goes into fight Alex. Now I think Khalil is a top 5 fighter. He's in the top 5 automatically. A couple different scenarios, right? In 6 to 8 months, if Hill doesn't fight, give him Khalil Rountree. I think that's an amazing fight.
They have to run it. They were originally supposed to fight, right? And I think that fight was supposed to happen at 303 when it was under McGregor versus Chandler. And I think Hill pulled out because of an injury, right?
Yeah.
I don't think in my opinion, I don't think he was injured. I think it was more so his pride and ego because when Pereira got announced as the main event, that's when he magically got injured. He pulled out because I don't think he wanted to be on a Pereira on the undercard,
That's
co-maining or whatever, the
we're
Pereira
assuming,
card. So
Cam. Are we assuming here?
yeah, well, sometimes we live in a world of assumptions, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this, champ. Yeah, Hill. I don't know what bubble he's in. He's gonna have to win one more. Maybe have,
Mhm.
maybe have John Blachowicz and Hill fight it off. That's what you should do. Have
Yeah.
number 3 versus number 4, and the winner of that could.
Well, I think
Right.
Khalil has some bargaining power now, right? He did a favor, going up against Alex Pereira, number 8. A lot of people gave him backlash or gave the UFC backlash for making that fight, but I think Rountree did win the hearts of many. Not to sound cheesy, but we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, and then so a couple different things, right? You got Rakic versus Ankalev,
Hmm.
and Dana White has stipulated contingent upon Magomedov doing a finishing performance or
Hmm.
dominant performance, he will get the shot. But notice how there's a contingency in
Yeah,
place. That contingency is because he fought Blachowicz to a draw, and that was it's a very weird fight. Um,
exactly.
but then, champ, you got to look at it this way. You have Carlos Ulberg fighting number 6, which is Volkan Ozdemir. You got those two locking horns, right? I think that's going to be a very interesting fight. Um, because it'll put movement into the top 5,
Yes.
right? So that's going to be it's going to get a little bit dicey in there. We're going to see what ends up happening. Um, and then Jerry staying in that number 1 slot. Like, I don't understand what's going on there. I would rather you bring, who do you put that number? Ankalev, but then you got to drop Jerry. Jerry,
Yeah, what's going on with Jiri? Is the rumors of him going down to middleweight have been? Is it true,
no,
or no? It's still up in the air.
it's just he's undecided of what he wants to do. But
Okay.
um, maybe you could run Hill versus Jerry. Maybe you could run that if you don't do Hill versus. I think that is the fight to make, because the reality is Roundtree is out for the same amount of time as Pereira. She should be
Yeah,
out. Let's be honest
yeah,
with each other.
I agree.
Yeah, and then Ankalev, like, I hope we don't get into a situation where Ankalev, oh, I want to fight you now. Well, you're not the champion, and I'm taking some time off.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, like, we're gonna have Uzdemir and Ulberg in China in November. We're gonna have Ankalev and Ratchet in
The
3
end of
weeks.
October.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
Hill needs a partner. Give him Jiri, but then, like, John is there. What is John doing, bro? Like, it's just like,
I'm not mad at John and Hill. Not
no,
mad at
but
that.
John needs to fight. John Blachowicz
Yeah,
needs to fight. Like, what is he doing? Like, he's been
yeah, he
inactive
does.
for like over a year now. So,
Hmm.
and then you're complaining about, bro, like, go finish somebody and make a statement and then fight the champion, because they're not going to give it to him unless he beats somebody, because John Blachowicz was not that draw either. So let's remember that, champ.
Yeah. Funny story. My uncle called me. He's like, "Hey, I'm in Seattle. I don't know much about UFC, but Pereira's fighting, and I'm looking at the bets. It's plus 1,400 if he gets a submission. You make a bet for me." And I was like, "Listen, man, I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but both these cats are strikers. They both have X amount of knockouts in the UFC. These are their last fights. This is probably gonna end in a knockout." He's like, all right, well, we'll throw $20 just in case. So the fight happened. He texted me. He's like, yeah, you were right, man. It was a KO knockout. So it's
Maybe go
just
for a
funny.
submission. Please.
But
Maybe go
yeah,
for the submission. That's crazy.
yeah, that is pretty crazy.
A
Oh,
couple
not as
defense.
crazy as me. Not as crazy as me saying that he's gonna go for a takedown, right?
Well, I mean, I think if you could bet on the takedown, that would have been a better odd. The
Hmm.
submission, I don't know. I don't know about the submission. It's weird, unless Roundtree was clinching, but Roundtree doesn't really clinch.
Exactly. It wasn't gonna happen. That's why the odd was. That's why it was at a plus 1,400. It wasn't gonna happen.
Champ, go back into the betting odds. Sorry, not the but yeah. So listen, champ, you almost went perfectly. If you would have put $5 on everybody there, champ, you would have made maybe 10,000, $20,000.
Yes. So we
Everybody.
did come we did come away with some wins some parlays, some straights. The big parlay that hit was, I had Court McGee, underdog. I put Ryan Spann, money line, straight money line, Roman, straight, Mario Bautista, and then I had Rodriguez and Lucindo going the distance for a plus 1911. So we did come away with good wins. Our picks were good. We're consistently making good picks on these cards. The pay-per-views are a lot different than the fight nights because I think the talent level is a lot better, right? And when it comes to the pay-per-view cards, these guys are contending for titles, so it can really go either way. They're pick'ems, but I think in comparison to 306, we did a lot better. I think 306 O'Malley versus Duvashvili, we had a lot of surprise, right? We didn't, our picks didn't pan out how we predicted, but they were very close fights. So here's our picks. We had 75% altogether, 92% for myself, 58% for the floor price guy. Yeah, that's what we have it, guys. Give us a follow. Let us know what you think.
Yes, sir.
There we have it. Our UFC 307 Pereira versus Rountree. Opinions and analysis and a reaction to the card. Those refs and those judges, I don't know. They need to get out of Utah. They need to go, they need to go to a better elevation to get their mind right. But we will be back with the UFC Fight Night, Royval versus Taira breakdown, predictions, pick, analysis, opinions. I'm Roy, accompanied by the legend himself, the Dominican Badman, floor price guy, and we are Combat Sports guys. Give us a follow on X. We're putting play by play, round by round recaps as the fights are happening. Give us a follow. We did amazing last night. We got over 120 follows, I believe, and our impressions are nearing 1.5 million in a 7-day span. So to put it in perspective, we are under a month old. We've been doing this for how many days, Floor Press? I think you said 28 days. We've been doing this 26 days. Yes. So for us to reach that level of engagement, that level of impressions is good as we're starting off. So give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscription. Leave us some comments if you agree with us, if you disagree with us. We're open to all opinions. It's all love, baby. I don't always agree with the floor price guy. He'll tell you. We argue all the time, on and off air. On air it's a little more tame, but off air it's a little more gangster, you might
offensive,
say.
a little more offensive. And somebody.
But at the end of the day, it's all love. Floor price guy, any parting words?
No, I mean, look, it's always a pleasure doing these fight nights. Sorry, pay-per-view cards and fight nights cards. I would just say, like even the biggest win, even at a 58 success rate, going into this fight and betting on everything, I think a lot of bettors have that tendency of win 3, win 4, and lose. And then they'll tend to lose it all. So just even for this fight, I just went in Pena. Honestly, and it was close, and I got the W. But just be responsible when it comes to that. You don't have to bet on the whole fight if you don't feel confident.
And at the end of the day, picks are very different from bets. We're picking these people to win the fight. It doesn't necessarily mean we're betting on them, right? So just remember that, because there are slight prop bets, right? For example, the Lucindo Rodriguez, I had chosen Lucindo to win, but my confidence level was low, so I went for a prop bet for it to go to the decision. So keep that in mind when it comes to making bets and kind of basing it off of our decisions. Be responsible, be an adult, and that's all. See you guys later.